the Seventh Ray by the Ascended Master Saint Germain. Ceremonial Worship. In each 2,000-year cycle, a religion is evolved by the intelligences who represent the Godhead for that period. This religion is based on the natural tendencies of the life streams who are to be the focal point for the establishment and maintenance of the spiritual culture of the era. The religious worship is also based on the specific beneficial outpouring which the CHOHAN of the Ray desires to release to and through the evolving life intelligences in this period. As we enter the 2,000-year cycle of the Seventh Ray, we are beginning to set into motion the type of religious worship which will become the predominant activity of the masses in the future. This worship will include all the best expressions of previous religions as well as the fresh, new impetus of the CHOHAN under whose direction the new era will move to fulfillment. In this case, my humble self. At its inception, those blessed life streams who have volunteered to assist me are among the first to respond to the new vibrations. And later, when the foundations have been well laid and the beautiful rituals and ceremonies developed, a greater number of the people will enjoy participating in these uplifting and inspiring services. The responsibility of the director and the group. In order to participate intelligently in the ceremonial activity of the Seventh Ray, every person must be in conscious cooperation with the individual who takes the responsibility of directing the group activity. In fact, each such an one becomes a priest or priestess of the flame through the magnetic power focused through his own heartbeat. The energy of the director directs and focuses the energies of the group, but there is no such thing as passive enjoyment of the service from the premise of the onlooker. Each life stream is rather a participant in the actual performance of the successive steps in the ritual. The director and the students may invoke the powers of the sacred fire, the masters and angelic beings, through the power of visualization, contemplation, and directed thought and feeling. This may be done through song, through the spoken word, and through the performance of certain rituals, employing pure floral scents and certain musical compositions of a spiritual nature. True efficiency comes when the director and the group can combine all of these faculties and means of invocation toward this end. I must refer here to the position of the one entrusted with the responsibility of representing the master to the group, that is, the leader. The privilege and responsibility of the director is to unify the consciousness of the group through directed visualizations, decrees, songs, and active invocations of the powers of the sacred fire. The unity of the energies released by each individual of the group into the collective thought form for the ceremonial is the strength of the service of that group to the cause of the brotherhood. This collective thought and feeling form determines the amount of spiritual energy that is drawn earthward and used to dissipate evil and set into motion new causes for world progress. The ability of the director to obtain and hold the interest of the group, as well as the joyous, willing cooperation of the individual unit, determines the efficacy of the service. Energies that are released through a sense of duty or fear are practically useless in the Master's work. Joyous, happy energy is the hope of heaven. Each live stream who has professed enough interest in the activities of the group to come to the meeting will find himself contributing more freely and willingly through some one of his inner bodies rather than another. Mental, emotional, etheric, physical, and on rare occasions, higher mental. It is for each one to examine impartially his own development, and if he find his mental, emotional, or physical body to be the lazy one of his vehicles, he should endeavor to bring this particular body to greater obedience through directing it to cooperate with that portion of the service that seems distasteful to it. Here, the bodies of each individual must be treated like children. The director must also endeavor to give all of the bodies equal opportunity to serve and not lean toward indulgence of the particular vehicle which he himself has developed to the detriment of the other members of the group, who perchance may miss an opportunity to serve at that meeting because their most highly developed vehicles have been given no opportunity to express themselves. For instance, many people love physical action and can participate happily in songs and decrees, but they are mentally lazy or undeveloped and soar off into a daze during the time when the mental body should be helping to cut out of the universal mind substance the form which is the protective canopy of the room, locality, or nation. Others derive great emotional pleasure from instrumental music, but rebel at the physical effort required to decree. In cooperative endeavor, it is better to have a 15-minute span of a certain activity and keep it alive than a much longer one which strains the undeveloped bodies of the individuals in the group. By changing the type of service from that which requires the cooperation of the physical body, such as song or decree work, back to that requiring the cooperation of one of the inner bodies, greater service can be rendered than by holding the students too long at one particular type of service. Ceremonial worship is the balanced use of all the faculties, powers, and vehicles of the life stream, harmoniously blended and utilized to draw, focus, and direct energy, to create new causes for good and dissolve those of an inharmonious nature. Decree. My world is the world of freedom and the full, unconditional release of all the mastery, faculties, power, and powers of the light of my higher mental body. The primal requirements for an efficacious service are: 1. The quieting of the inner and physical bodies of the participants through carefully chosen musical compositions of a soothing and inspirational nature. This enables the members of the angelic host to prepare the inner bodies of the students to receive the greatest possible blessings from the meeting, and also raises each individual to his own highest potential service to the group and the master intelligence, who is presiding and working with such a group. 2. The purification of the bodies and auras of the students, the director, and the atmosphere which is to form the focus into which the spiritual energies are to be drawn through the invocation of the powers of the sacred fire in decrees. 3. The protection of the students and the location which are to be the chalice for the direction of these spiritual energies from the higher octaves. This protection is drawn forth by the use of the creative centers, thought and feeling, of each individual focused and concentrated by the director's audible directions. 4. Recognition of the God power focused through each participant, which is the authority by which energy is set into motion and directed toward ultimate good effects. 5. Acceptance of the presence of and access to the ascended host of light, the angelic, devic, cherubic, and seraphic hosts as conscious co-workers in the activities of the group work. When these requirements have been met, the directing intelligence of the Godhead, either through the God presence of the director or an ascended master or angelic guest, will utilize the ritual to the greatest possible extent according to the requirements of the hour. Music. As by far the greatest number of the beloved chelas who participate in the group activities are engaged in service in the outer world and are obliged to come to their meetings directly from such service, the part that music plays in quieting the feeling world of the individual, relaxing the physical body, and stopping the rapidly revolving thought patterns in the mental bodies cannot be overemphasized. By this means, the atomic structure of the students' bodies is repolarized, and the vessels through which the God Self of each individual will endeavor to cooperate in the service are prepared for their part in it during this musical service. The angelic host then begins to weave the spiritual structure under the direction of the presiding master out of the very substance and energy of the individuals in the group. The type of music used will determine the class of invisible helpers drawn into the atmosphere of the meeting, which will form the unseen but palpable audience of divine beings whose energies and assistance are without limit in elevating the consciousness of the unascended members of the group, as well as condensing the energies drawn by themselves to render specific service for the good of life. Beautiful thought forms are builded by these invisible beings, and where the audience participates in vocal accompaniments to the music, the inner forms are clothed in the physical energies of each singer and become a potent power in sublimating energies of a lower nature in the bodies of the participants, as well as in the locality in which the service takes place. These musical forms are greatly amplified by the angels, the divas of music, and the builders of form, and are then carried into hospitals, asylums, and other places where there is great need for the assuagement of physical, mental, and emotional distress. You will see that where instrumental music gives assistance at inner levels, the group singing is most efficacious in lowering the spiritual forms into the substance of the physical world, in the same manner that the decrees lower the mental forms of the visualizations into the condensed energy of the third dimensional plane. At inner levels, the great music temples are established in each of the 7 spheres, and through the music divas, these cosmic temples often connect with a particularly fine presentation in the physical world and pour through such a musical presentation their cosmic outpouring of the particular God quality and God power which is their gift to life. The sacred fire. The actual specific powers of the sacred fire are endowed by some intelligent God being. This means that some spiritual intelligence drew the fire of creation from the heart of God and qualified it to act in a certain specific manner. Dedication to such qualification through the centuries has created momentums of the powers of the sacred fire to heal, to purify or transmute, as the case may be. The intelligences who have endowed the sacred fire with specific God qualities, as well as the full gathered momentum of these qualities, held in the consciousness of these beings, are always at the command of the sacred fire, which is the heartbeat of each individual when invoked by the directive intelligence of the life stream, because it is all the same element acting. Therefore, when a group of individuals gather together and in the name, power, and authority of their own immortal flame of life command any activity of the sacred fire to come into their presence, it must obey. This is the power of invocation, invested in the individual by the very nature of his own immortal fiery heart center. As the nature of the seventh ray is to purify the substance and energy of life, and as the CHOHAN, who is the authority for this ray, myself, has endowed it with the merciful, transmuting power of love divine, you will see the use of the sacred consuming fiery flame of freedom's love is the privilege and opportunity of all life to benefit by its presence and activity in and through the group work. Methods of invocation of the sacred fire. The magnetic power of the fire element within the heart cannot be denied by any intelligence or power of the sacred fire in any realm, human or divine. This is irrefutable law. We move forward then on the premise of certainty of accomplishment. The way and means by which this sacred fire may be drawn, focused, molded, and directed will differ according to the individual development of the student, as well as the natural ray to which the student belongs, and the requirement of the current hour in local, national, or world happenings. In order to fully develop the invocative powers within himself, the individual must first recognize that within his own heart is a focalized ray of the presence and power of the Godhead, containing within itself the pattern of his own future greatness, even as the seed contains within itself the pattern of the future flower. This focus within the heart is referred to as the immortal threefold flame of life. In the unawakened man, it is but a spark of divinity. But when the individual self-consciously places his feet upon the path, this small spark takes the form of the God Presence or Christ in miniature and begins to grow and expand in size, finally emerging from the airless cell in which it has abided, bursting from the tomb, and takes its rightful command of the physical body as the master presence and power of Christ. This is the second birth, referred to so often in the spiritual teachings of the past. The recognition and acceptance of this God presence within the heart and the conviction within the feelings that through that presence and in the authority of its power, he may invoke and draw from anywhere in the universe whatever power and powers may be required to render assistance in the environment in which he is presently functioning, makes the individual a conscious priest or priestess of the sacred fire who is capable, with increasing efficacy, of invoking and directing its flaming presence for the upliftment of his fellow man and the greater freedom of life everywhere.